This conference will now be recorded.
So, so over here, so in today's discussion, right, we will be mostly talking about exactly what type of the data that is required, the data merging look like what period between which period to which period of information are we going to use as model development, model validation, out of time model validation, and so on, right? And we'll start off by just once again, by isolating the PD and the EAD frameworks. And from there again, so we start off by recapitulating on the PD and the EAD frameworks. And along with that, what we'll do is, so we start by recapitulating the PD and the EAD framework. And what we will kind of do over here is start off by talking about and see how the PD data is much like those products which are evolving in nature. So these products are evolving, that is products like credit cards, overdrafts, etc. They are insecure that they do not have a proper time point as well. So when these things we know that these products are a pretty kind of a risky kind of a product, right? And given that these are pretty risky products, so there are a few important things that we need to keep in mind. Now, as I talk about the LGD models, so when I talk about the LGD model, we saw that we would be talking about two types of models, two types of LGD approaches. One would be the fixed horizon method that we were talking about, and the other would be so one would be the fixed horizon method, and the other would be the cohort method that we were talking about. Which in today's so today we need to see that how does the fixed horizon approach and how is it that the cohort method operate? What are the type of accounts which enter into? And when we are talking about LGD, we said that there are two types of LGD models which we had already discussed in our introduction to the LGD discussions. That the data. So we had already seen that there are two types of LGD models. One type of the LGD model talks about is for those accounts which have already defaulted on the snapshot, and there are these accounts which have defaulted, which have not defaulted on the snap. I mean, which have not defaulted in the snapshots, right? So that is something which is important. Now, having said this, or right, so we need to understand that how is it that the data for all the defaulted accounts are being chosen? How is it that the data for all the non-default accounts are being chosen? And while we talk about the recoveries, right? So while we talk about the recoveries, how is it that the how is it that the the cumulative recovery is being calculated? So these are some of the important questions that we have over here with us, right? So these are some of the, so basically these are some of the questions that we are going to talk about, right? So one of the very important concepts over here will be that of the chain ladder approach, right? So let's first try to get an overview of how exactly it would work, and then how exactly the model design would work, and then we can talk about chain ladder approach in a specific manner. Okay, so let the page load once, and then we will get started. So let's take pause over here.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So looks like there is some problem with this scribbler whiteboard. Fine. So anyways, let's continue. So we were discussing about the LGD model in yesterday's discussion, right? So we were kind of talking about how exactly these LGD models have been built, the LGD formula yesterday, right? And from that LGD formula, we also looked into, we tried building up that entire model design in. So we started looking towards the entire model design for the LGD models or the loss given default models. Now, while I talk about the loss given default models, so we said that there are two types of LGD models that we generally work with. So we have so we generally talk about two types of LGD models, loss given default models. One of the loss given default models are for those people, you know, who have already kind of defaulted the loss given defaults. So for already defaulted accounts, so we say that these are the ones who have already defaulted, already defaulted. The second set of accounts that we have over here, or the second type of people that we would have over here, are the non-defaults. When I say already defaulted and when I say non-default, what I mean is that both these two are being defined at the snapshot. So both of these two are being defined at snapshot. At snapshot. Now these are the two set of models that we need to develop. And now given that the nature of the accounts of each of these groups are so different, it is not really possible for us to understand, or it is not really possible for us to have one single model for the two. So what we would need to do is we would need to develop the model in two parts. One is an already defaulted account. So these accounts are ones which have already been right now. So let's try to understand the type of the records that we are going to include for these snapshot defaults. So the LGD base, so one part of the LGD base comes out from the point from where your from those accounts which you had excluded while you were building your PD and your EAD base, right? So those are your snapshot defaults. Those snapshot. Now, when I talk about the snapshot defaults, so they are the accounts which had been excluded, but these are the accounts which have already defaulted. So obviously, one of these are so accounts which have defaulted as the given snapshot, right, falls under this category. So these are known as the new to defaults. Now these are accounts which have defaulted in that particular snapshot. This is called the new to default. The new to default categories. default category. Now, when you are choosing the base of the accounts, right? When you are choosing the base of the accounts, then for this particular record, for this particular category, you cannot do it like you had done it for the EAD models, right? So what we would want to do is, because these are snapshot defaults, you have to choose them across each and every snapshot, right? So for new to default categories, so what are the type of the accounts which are chosen? Monthly snapshot defaults. So all the respective monthly snapshot defaults are chosen and they are appended together to form this base. Monthly snapshot defaults. So the monthly snapshot defaults are kind of chosen. Right. So these are the monthly snapshot defaults. So every month on month you take the data, so that the time period over which you want to build it. For every month account which are defaulted, just the new defaults, just take them and stop them together. So that will give you your total snapshot default base. Right. Now the second part that we need to worry about is the part of the non-defaults. The part of the non-defaults. Now, who are those accounts? So these are the accounts which are not defaulted at snapshots, but performance. Not defaulted at snapshot, not defaulted at snapshot, but defaulted at okay. So these are the ones which has not defaulted at performance. So not default. So over here, what is happening? What happens over here is it is non-default snapshot, but it is defaulting in the performance. So this base comes out straight from the PD and the EAD base. So this is directly PD. This comes directly from the PD. So as we know that the EAD base is the subset of the PD base, right? So this base is essentially the exposure at default base. So the data design will be such that the while choosing the snapshot, the snapshot chosen will be exactly the same as that chosen for EAD, which will be quarterly snapshots. So the quarterly snapshots will be chosen because this data is being created from the exposure at the default data. The exposure at the default data comprises of those accounts which are current as on the snapshot but have defaulted in the performance, right? So that is precisely what the framework is. Now, so these are the two different set of models. So obviously, now now to get to the LGD part from these for these records, if I have to calculate the LGD, the recovery information needs to be punched in. So the question that comes out over here is that how does the recovery information get punched? The recovery information get punched because the recovery information over here is, so the recovery information gets punched, right? So the recovery information gets punched because, so okay, so the recovery information needs to be punched because I have to compute my expected recovery rate. And once I've computed that expected recovery rate, so from there what I'll get is 1 minus the expected recovery rate will be my loss given default. Now, if I have to do this, so this the question that now comes over here is then how do I kind of calculate? So to do that, I need to calculate the cumulative recovery rate, right? Now the question is, if I have to compute the recovery rate, how will that happen, right? But before going into that, so let's start talking about. So we need to talk about the two methods that we are looking towards for model design and for quantifying the LGD. So how do I calculate the LGD, right? So how do I calculate my LGD for these records? So for that, what we need to do is we are using, or we will be talking about two approaches. One of them is the fixed horizon method. So approaches of quantifying Basel LGD. Approaches of quantifying Basel LGD. Quantifying Basel LGD. So while I talk about approaches of quantifying the Basel LGD, I need to talk about a few important things as well over here. Now there are two methods. One is the fixed horizon method. The fixed horizon method. And the second method that we talk about over here is the cohort method. So what we want to understand next is that what are these methods and when is it that these respective methods are being used. Right. So when is it that this method is being used? Okay. Now the fixed horizon method is applicable mostly towards your snapshot defaults. So what does this fixed horizon method does? So what it does is it captures all the defaults in a given snapshot. So it captures all the snapshot defaults. So all the snapshot defaults, right, and tracks the recovery over the next 36 months. And tracks recovery for the next 36 months. Right? So what it means is that this 36 months is constant, right? Okay. Right. Now, when I have a look into this, so over here, what happens is you have so you have 6 months. So this 36 months that you look over into this is the performance period of the recovery. Performance recovery performance period of the performance period of the recovery. The performance recovery. Now, this performance recovery period is not a fixed period. Now, this has to be identified through cumulative recovery analysis, right? So, as I was saying, the performance recovery period is not a fixed period. This is something which is, I mean, this is not given. It's not given by the regulation that it has to be 36 months. Now, 0, this is time in months, obviously. And this is recovery. So let's say, how do I do this recovery for each of the accounts? What I do is, you see that whenever you are kind of doing these parts, right? So more or less the overall recovery is kind of flattening out from this. So whatever this sign is, whatever this start from where the cumulative recovery curve flatten out, the point from where the cumulative recovery curve flattens out, right? So this is your performance. Your is the time from where the revenue curve flattens out is the performance period. So this performance period is to be used for my or is to be used for this fixed horizon as well. So we'll track the recovery over the next 36 months. Right. So for every recovery, I'll try to track the next 36 months. Now the question is that every time the data is not available, right? So talking about recovery processes, so there are two types of recoveries which we generally get to see. So one of the recovery process that we talk about over here is a complete workout. So where the recovery process has been completed. The recovery process. So one is a complete workout. Is a complete workout. The other is an incomplete work. Is an incomplete work. Is an incomplete work. I have two things. Now, if the recovery process is incomplete, right, then what I need to do is I need to extrapolate it and then I need to leave it. So we have an incomplete workout. Now, in this incomplete workout, what we need to do is we need the recoveries to be extrapolated. To be extrapolated. And this extrapolation is done using the chain ladder. Using the chain ladder. Right. So what I have over here is the chain ladder. Now, in this chain ladder approach, so this approach will actually help me to extrapolate the recovery workout. So let's say my performance period is 36 months. There is some account which has been into recovery for 31 month there. It has 35 months of recovery, and that 1 month is extrapolated. The second month is 2 months to default, so they have 34 months, 33 months. Like this, it goes on. So the next 36 months has not been covered for them, right? So, so we need to look into those accounts, and for them, we need to extrapolate 1 month, 2 months, 3 months of the recovery process. Okay. Now the second method that I have over here is the cohort method. Now the cohort method is for the set of non-defaults. So the accounts which have not defaulted, right? So the cohort method is for them. So over here, first of all, so non-defaults in a given snapshot is identified. Non-defaults in a snapshot is identified. Is identified, right? Then is tracked over the performance. Tracked over the performance of next 12 months. Next 12 months. So accounts which have defaulted, the accounts which have defaulted, right? So they are tracked for the next 36 months recovery, because like 36 months I am saying because yeah, I assume so in this particular problem 36 months was the performance. So if your recovery period is 46 48 months, you do it 48 months. If it's 50 months, you do 50 months. If it's 45 months, you do 45 months. So this is but typically it is generally seen that for retail it is between 36 to 48, right? So the next 36 months of recovery is tracked. Recovery is tracked. Tracked. So this is precisely one of the frameworks that we can see over here, right? So this is the cohort method. Now, accounts which have already completed the recovery, so for them you get the total cumulative recovery, you discount them back into next 12 months, and then you do your calculation. Now, the challenge over here, now with LGD is another. So you cannot, so the yeah, yeah. So the Basel LGD that we are talking about over here is not always your predicted LGD, because with LGD you need to actually calculate out multiple things. Your Basel LGD is not only your ST. Your I mean, the idea is not only assess the LGD, but you have to assess the expected or the predicted LGD. So the one that you develop from the model, comma the downturn LGD. So it will be a max of the two. So the max of the two. So over here you need to also identify that how to calculate a downturn LGD. Right. So over here, your Basel LGD is the max of the two LGD. So I need to find out the downturn LGD as well. This is one of the challenges of LGD, right? That unlike a PD model where you just calculate PD over or developing a PD model, so over here, apart from developing the LGD model, you also need to develop a downturn LGD model, because downturn LGD is an important factor. The second question that comes out over here is, so now from here, a few of the important questions come up. That when I'm talking, so first of all, one of the important questions is how to calculate the downturn LG. Now the second question that comes out over here is that how to, so okay, so now what we need to understand is that we need to understand on the recovery side. So assuming that the recovery is completed or recovery is not completed and you have 36 months of performance, so then how do I go about chain ladder approach. Okay. Before I go through the chain ladder approach, just take 1 minute time and just go through this entire framework that we have discussed. So if you have this framework in mind, it will be easier for us to discuss the steps. Just take a minute and go through this framework. Just okay. So now what we'll do is we'll talk about the chain ladder approach. What is this chain ladder approach? So let's say I have the I have a recovery data for the next 36 months. Right? Now, let's say I am working with a time point. I'm kind of working with a time point such that from there I have 36 months of information. But I need the 36 months of performance information for all the records. Right? So, so let's say I am standing on 2016 06, and I'm talking about the Z of snapshot defaults. So for this account, what we'll have is for this snapshot, the recovery performance will be the 36 months of performance will be 2016-07, 1607 to 2019-06. right? Now let's say for accounts which default in 2017, 06. Your recovery performance will be 2016 2016-07. So the recovery performance will be from 2016 08 to 2019 06. Now, I cannot use recovery information after 2019-06 because I will not have the full 12 months performance, and I have to keep aside recoveries. So I have to keep aside recovery periods for out of time validation as well. So over here, if you look into this, so accounts which have defaulted in 2016-07. So I have a 36 months of information that is fixed. So for 2016-07, I will have 35 months of information. So similarly, for accounts which default, so over here I have 35 months of observed information. Observed information plus 1 month of predicted information. So over here, what I need to do is I need to predict 1 month of the information. I need to predict 1 month. Information is predicted. Right? So 1 month of predicted information. Similarly, accounts which would go into default in 2016-08 will have 34 months of information. Right? So accounts which default in 20, after that will have 33 months of information, and like this, it will go on until and unless you just have 1 month of information left. So at each stage, I need to keep on one additional month of information. I need to keep on extrapolating that one additional month of information. Right. So up to this point, is it clear to everyone? So now let us construct this chain ladder approach. So the chain ladder approach, on one side, the chain ladder approach on one side will show how many months forward, right? And for each month it will give you a recovery, right? And it will help you calculate the cumulative recovery. And on the other side, it will show you the months when it goes to differ, the months of snapshots. So let's say my base or my reference month is 2016-06 or the reference month is 2016-06. So let's say this is the, on this side I have the origination vintage and I have the months to default over. So origination vintage is this side, and over here I have the time to default. So let's say the account defaults as on the reference month. So what are the, how much of recovery is happening over here? So let's say at this month, in the first month, a recovery of $100 is now from 1 month from the date of default. So in the second month of recovery, a total of 190 has been. So these are all cumulative recoveries that you are getting to see. In the second month from the time to default, from the time it defaulted, right? This is essentially the third month. So in the month of default, there has been some collections. In the second month, 1 month from that default, so that's the second event of collection. Then 2 months from default, so that's the third event of collection. Then let's say you have amount collected over, the total amount that has been collected over here is 290. So what it means is in this third month there has been no additional, sorry, there has been collection of 100 more dollars. In the third month from default, rather the fourth month from default, it is the total collection stands at 370. The fourth month default, the collection stands at 440. So at the end of fourth month, $440 have been calculated. In the fifth month, it is 500. Like this, you will have it for 36 months. Now this is done for years, in terms of years. So let's say you can look in terms of years, or you can look it in terms of sorry, you can look in terms of months, and it goes on up to the 36th month. So up to the 36th month, where you say, let's say a total of $1,000 has been calculated. I mean, total of $1,000 has been collected. So from zero, this entire thing goes on. Right now, the account which has defaulted on 2017. So for them, they start 1 month later. So 1 month from zero. So the month when it defaults, let's say the collection is $120. In the second month from that date of default, it is $220. Then it is $330. Then it is $425, the third month. So after 4 months, this has been collected. Then it is $505. Then it is, let's say, $620. Now from till over here, you finish it at, let's say, 35. So at 35, you see it has like $780 has been calculated, has been collected. Let's say over here it was standing at 810. Right. Now you have just 34 months of information. So this month of information is unknown to you. Right. So what I want to do is I want to do this collection first. I want this first collection to be done. So what I'll do is nothing but I need to find out a factor by which I'll multiply 780 to get the value. The factor that happens over here is sum of these two values divided by this value. So sum of column. So basically, let's say if after 0 I don't have anything, what I'll do is I'll do sum of column 0 divided by sum of column 1. Right. So sum of column 35 divided by column. So here I am writing the sum because column 36 is a single entry. 30. So this is 808. So that is 1590 divided by 1000. So that is 1.59 times is the multiple. So this value that is here is nothing but 1.59 times 780. So whatever that figure is the recovery or is the projected or the extrapolated recovery of the 36th month. Similarly, like this for the second, it will be 34th month. You have to calculate the 35th and the 36th month. Like this, when it's 33, 34, 35th, and 36th month. So like this, it is extrapolated, right? So every time, so when you are doing it for the 35th column, it will be sum of the 34th column by sum of the 35th column, right? So divided, you get the ratio. So to that value, multiply it and you will generate it for the 35th column. Then for with that predicted value, you will do that the same function and you generate for 36th column and so on. So this is the way the extrapolations happen. So at the end of this, you will get to see for all these vintages, you will get to see the cumulative recovery curve. And from there, you can actually, so if you plot those curves, you can actually find out like what is going to be the recovery period. Now, this is generally done over the lifetime of the loan, right? And then generally do this. Now, because it's a personal loan portfolio, right? So the typical length of personal loan portfolio is 5 years, 3 to 5 years, right? So you do it for lifetime, and then what you do is you see where the cutoff happens and where it flattens out, and then you choose that as the performance. So that is basically the idea of the chain ladder approach. So with this, what you will have is, so once you have identified that cumulative recovery that happens, this will give you an idea of the performance period, as well as it will help you identify the complete recovery corresponding to the incomplete workouts. So with this, now you will have the entire cumulative recovery figures along with you, right? So now the next step will be to calculate the cumulative recovery rate, which you get by dividing it with the historical rate. So now on one side you will have your observed, you will have your observed values of the expected recovery rate, or observed values of the recovery rate, right? And 1 minus that recovery rate will become your 1 minus the recovery rate will become your observed LGD. Then with that observed LGD, you develop the model, right? So with this, we come to the more or less, we come to the end of the LGD model design, right? So the next step over here, which we discuss on tomorrow and Sunday, is the model development, validation, and monitoring. Thank you. So tomorrow we meet at around 7:38 p.m. and we'll like complete modeling tomorrow and day after. Thanks, sir.